Hello Kaiju fans, welcome back to the Kaiju World Order. My name is MM, and this is Monster of the Week. Once again, I'm going to be talking about a monster that was voted on by members of the Kaiju Hugbox Discord server. Go to the channel's description and you'll be able to find a link to join the server. So, this week's monster is none other than the Okinawan deity, the protector of the royal Izumi family, King Caesar, originating in 1974's Godzilla vs. MechaGodzilla. This is one of the franchise's very few mammalian kaiju, and also one of the very few, even lesser so, known mammalian kaiju outside of King Kong. King Caesar has had only one major appearance in the Godzilla series, that being Godzilla vs. MechaGodzilla. He does come back in Godzilla Final Wars, but it's really just a tiny role. He can be swapped out for just about anybody, and it wouldn't make a difference to the plot. He just exists to be cannon fodder for Godzilla. And thus, this video is specifically going to talk about the 1974 incarnation of King Caesar and what it's been up to since its movie, where else it's popped up, and some of the merchandise. So let's get right on into this here with King Caesar. The prophecy says that once a black mountain appears in the sky, a giant monster will appear and start to trample on the people who try to get away. This will eventually awaken two monsters that will come to protect humanity and potentially save the world. You would think prophecies would be more specific, but it is what it is. And when Godzilla mysteriously appears out of Mount Fuji and goes on a rampage, it is soon to be revealed that it is actually MechaGodzilla. And the prophecy is coming into fruition during an alien invasion. Now, if you've been following the Godzilla franchise for a while at this point, you might be thinking, where in the blue hell was King Caesar during all the other invasions and attacks on Japan and the mainland and everything? And don't think about it. Simple as that. Where was King Caesar during World War II during the Okinawan battle? Don't think about it. It's King Caesar. So just sit back, enjoy this as King Caesar is awoken by his priestess and begins to attack MechaGodzilla. And they have a tremendous fight. King Caesar, however, is outclassed. While he is able to redirect MechaGodzilla's I-beams, everything else just falls flat, and eventually MechaGodzilla straight up just gives him a mandible claw and seems to want to break his jaw. This robot has a fetish of sorts of breaking jaws. King Caesar is nearly killed, and then, what a surprise, Godzilla is back from the grave. He is not dead as everybody thought. You would think these people would learn by now that you just don't kill a Godzilla that easily. And Godzilla and King Caesar start to team up against MechaGodzilla. And once this team up happens, King Caesar kind of takes a back seat. He lets Godzilla do a lot of the heavy lifting. He does get some shots in, but even when MechaGodzilla is doing his all-out attack and then dividing his forces, King Caesar fails so bad that he takes a direct shot to the face of MechaGodzilla's I-beams. Now, keep in mind, he was redirecting them just a few minutes ago without any issue, so what was up with that, who knows. But eventually, MechaGodzilla is just overwhelming both of them, until Godzilla turns himself into a living magnet because he needed a random plot power. MechaGodzilla is drawn in, and as Godzilla holds him, King Caesar begins to ram him, and then eventually Godzilla pops his head off, and then MechaGodzilla goes boom, the aliens are defeated, and King Caesar goes back into his little mountain home, where he then blows up the mountain and goes back on more of King Caesar in the Showa era. He was ripe to be a partner for Godzilla. And if they would have just included him in something, say like a Zone Fighter Season 2, if that would have happened, would have been cool. Unfortunately, that never happened, and King Caesar never made his grand return until 2004, and that's just a whole nother story. There were talks or rumors originally back in the early 2000s, the late 90s, that King Caesar was going to be an antagonist or really protagonist for a Godzilla 2000 movie. Keep in mind, this was also going to be connected to the Heisei era. This didn't get very far in production as expected. Now, King Caesar has popped up in comics. He's a mainstay in the IDW comics. And while they have leaned heavily sometimes into the Final Wars design, it almost always has the face of the Showa one with the ruby eyes and the ability to reflect beams. Additionally, it's popped up in video games such as the Trading Battle, even Godzilla Unleashed for the Wii. While the body again was Final Wars, the face was Showa, and then he also had the ability to unleash solar beams from his eyes. In story, it was because his eyes could act as solar panels and collect solar energy until it made a beam, which was a fun little thing that's never really been explored since then. But as for actually making some sort of return, I'm afraid the time is past. I was really hoping back in 2024 that during the anniversary short with Godzilla and Jet Jaguar against King Ghidorah, there would be a surprise appearance by King Caesar, either with a reused Millennium suit or a new Showa suit, to just help Godzilla and Jet Jaguar while also celebrating King Caesar's anniversary. Now, that never happened, and since that didn't happen, I don't think we're going to see anything of King Caesar in actual meaningful way outside of comics for a long time. Fortunately, however, if you are a King Caesar fan, you are in luck because he has a ton of merchandise. It's actually easier to go over what he doesn't have than what he does have. And most toy lines, after they get to a certain point, tend to hit King Caesar. He's become a monster kind of like Titanosaurus, and I would even say Baragon, that once you get past the Mothras and the Ghidorahs, you're going to get into a King Caesar, and it shows. King Caesar has X Plus statues, he has movie Monster Series figures, he has a Bandai Creations figure. The original figure that was out in the 90s from Bandai was shrunken down and pretty much turned into the movie Monster Series figure, then repainted in back in 2002. This figure sucked. I was really hoping that we would get a new one back in 2024. Again, didn't happen, so I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. We never got a Monster Arts for King Caesar either, so really his anniversary kind of just got shat on in favor of, really, I don't even think they celebrated MechaGodzilla much. And now for the best part of these videos, let's go over the powers of this thing. And to start things off, King Caesar, despite what he looks like, is not an organic monster. He is actually a golem. He is composed of bricks and stones and rubies. And those rubies are able to redirect energy blasts. Case in point, when MechaGodzilla was shooting him, King Caesar was catching those beams in his eyes and then redirecting them. Unfortunately, he has to do this manually. The beams aren't just sucked into his face, as seen when MechaGodzilla actually does land a direct hit on his face and the beams are not reflected. That means he has to get it just right in order for the beams to be redirected. This also brings up an interesting thought of what happens when he gets hit in the face by, say, Godzilla's beam. I do remember a debate way back in the day on the Kaiju File forums, yep, I am that old, where someone was discussing GMK Godzilla versus King Caesar, and one of the posts just simply said, sure, King Caesar's eyes might redirect a small bit of the beam, but the beam itself is so big and wide that it's going to hit his entire face and just blow his head off. And that is pretty much what I feel would happen in most cases. I do think he could redirect smaller beams as he does, like MechaGodzilla's, like maybe gravity bolts from King Ghidorah, or Hydra's beams, or like even Super MechaGodzilla's eye beams and Mogera's beams. But when it comes to actual, like, beams, like an atomic ray, or even like an Ultraman finisher, I don't think he's going to be able to redirect it, at least not fully to the point where it's going to save him. But he also does have some decent physical strength. He's not the most gifted fighter in the world, but he does do some decent throws, and he does ram, and when he rams, he does pack a punch. Weighing in at 30,000 tons, which is 10,000 tons more than Godzilla and 10,000 tons less than MechaGodzilla, King Caesar is able to put a lot of power behind his rams, and he has the added benefit of having that crown, which acts as sort of like a helmet or even a battering ram. So a lot of monsters, if they are not machines like MechaGodzilla, are gonna be feeling that hit hard. Keep in mind, Gorosaurus's kangaroo kick in 1968 pretty much broke Ghidorah's back. If you want to debate that, that's fine, but as for now, I'm saying it broke Ghidorah's back. And I have no doubt that if King Caesar was given that same opportunity, he would also do the same with a couple rams. I think it would be hard for him to pull off, but if it would happen, I think Ghidorah would be down. Additionally, I think King Caesar could hold his own against some of the other 70s era Godzilla kaiju like Megalon and Gigan. And his golem body, while never really properly shown or addressed even in the movies, the fact it is made of stone should give him some protection against other types of elemental attacks like ice and fire. Baragon, for example, would probably not do anything to him with the ice mist, and attacks in similar vein may just fail against King Caesar. Again, we don't really know because King Caesar's never encountered any of that type of stuff before, but just given what we know about King Caesar, it's definitely possible. And with that, folks, I believe that covers it. King Caesar is one of my favorite kaiju. I'm very happy he won this week's Monster of the Week. Hoping to keep it going. Since I begged for subscribers in the last video or so, I got a couple, and thank you for subscribing. Hoping to get more. Again, I want to get to 500 by the end of the year. If I don't, whatever, I'm going to still be here. But if I do, awesome. And yeah, until next time, peace out, and Minya, take it away.
Says you should like and subscribe.